serve much the same purpose. Whether it's Aussie rules or rugby league, union or soccer, each weekend hundreds of thousands of us go out to the local version of the Coliseum to watch our champions battle it out to the death. The rougher, the better. Yet on Monday, we're able to wash our hands of it all and to talk in pious terms about how the game is getting too violent. The players are left with blood on their hands. For the last 6 weeks, we've been following one Sydney team, Wests, in its bid for the championship. We've been to places where few outsiders have ever been allowed before, like the dressing room before the game, and the psyching up that turns ordinary men into bone-crunching champions. Wests have the reputation of being the toughest of a pretty tough lot. But we found something more than that, a team who feel very keenly that they represent all of the ambitions and all of the frustrations of the working-class battler. And a coach, Roy Masters, who, like Melbourne's Ron Barassi, understands what it takes to motivate these gladiators. If you think it gets rough on the football field, have a look at what goes on before the game. This is what happens. Dressing room aggression. It's nothing like the psychiatrist's couch, but Coach Roy Masters is the super psych. His job is to motivate, and anything goes.
Then people will say that was their finest hour. Then they'll know what a club is made of and what men are made of.
Masters hammers home what he calls the team's self-image. Western suburbs, society's underdogs, victimised by everyone. Winning against those odds is the impossible dream. And these men are the impossible dreamers. Blokes with nicknames like Sloth, Snake, Dallas, Bloodnut and Spider. Wests are known as the toughest in a tough game. To some, they're the thugs of football. But that's not the way that 60 Minutes found them.
We've got to reach that unreachable star. We've got to fight him wrong.
We talk about rugby league being a contact sport. I think it's a collision sport. I think dancing's a contact sport. I feel that I've got to get them into a fairly aggressive state. If we lose our aggression, we're gone. And that's legal aggression, I mean.
But under no circumstances do I want you to lose your natural aggression today, because our natural aggression is a thing which has stuck with us over the last 2 years. You hit them 2 in a tackle, legal stuff, very, very hard. They'll come back with all the other stuff, but don't worry about it. You just keep going. But as soon as you start not moving up in the line, as soon as you start wondering what all this is about, and they're hitting us and they're getting away with it, that's when we're going to start to lose this game today. And that's the first thing. I don't care whatever's been said in papers or whatever speculation's gone on around the place, you are going to play with your natural aggression today of 2 in every tackle and hitting extremely hard, right? The thing I admire about you is just looking at you, Ronnie Broderick. The fact that you probably hate the opposition more than any man in this whole team hates the opposition. But what has been missing in the last 2 or 3 games is that hatred is not coming out on the field. It's not shown in those long, hard, damaging runs and really hitting the bloke hard in tackles. Your mind wants you to hate, but your body's not hating them. But I admire you for hating them. But don't forget you've got to hit these bastards nice and hard. Don't forget that. Don't ever lose your natural aggression, because it's just as though somebody's burnt your bloody house down or taken your job away from you. Because that's something that they've all tried to take away from us, our aggression. And as soon as they take our aggression away from us, we're...
Call it aggression, call it violence. It's an image that has cost them dearly. 3 of their best players sent off and suspended for weeks. The football press gleefully said that was the end for the Magpies.
But I've done as much as I can to get you here.
But they'd forgotten Roy Masters, the motivator. He seized upon this to again drive home the self-image of the underdogs up against it.
We get the bloody fruits of victory or we suffer the bitterness of defeat. It's just turn up the thermostat a little bit higher than it's been ever since you've been wearing football boots.
Masters begins his psych-up session 2 hours before the match, developing his favourite theme, the battlers, working class, against the Silvertails, the wealthy mob. It's old-fashioned class warfare.
They didn't go to Oberon. They didn't pay money out of their own bloody pockets to go up into the wilderness. They sat around bloody beaches and bars around bloody Palm Beach and took waves in while we were slogging it out up there at bloody Oberon trying to get the first image together. The team that's going to have to fight all the way. Well, today is absolutely our last chance. And it's because of Oberon and because of a lot of things that have happened to us this year that we've just got to succeed. Are we so second class that we're not supposed to have pride? Or does that comment mean in some other way that West are so low and so subhuman form of bloody species that you lose all pride when they beat you?
Roy Masters' self-image is based here, in Sydney's industrial western suburbs, a community that feels itself isolated, a kind of suburban ghetto.
We live in basically an industrial area, and it's not the brick veneer set. It's it's the fibro set and the weatherboard set. That is the sort of area from which we come, but it gives us comfort.
That's what that song's about. Men who've done wrong against almost impossible bloody odds who can do it. Men who are second-class bloody citizens.
The tension and the tempo pick up. Dave Dittman is the team's conditioner, physical and mental.
Forget all the pretty stuff.
You won't find this locker room language in any psychology textbook. It would make a bullocky blush. But in here, it helps create the mood.
Come on, come on.
What about the rough language? What role does that language play?
It's a difficult question, that really. The rough language is probably symptomatic of the way we are, of just being people who are fairly coarse and obtruse and fairly rough, I suppose. It's just symptomatic with everything. A travel writer recently in Japan described the mood in which the people of Kyoto, which is somewhat west of the normal typhoon track, awaited one typhoon, and an eerie, ominous silence prevails.
But here, the language is different. Roy Masters teaches high school economics. His formal training includes psychology. In the classroom, again, he's the motivator, the master of mood, as he always is. But why do grown men subject themselves to what amounts to brainwashing?
My brain often says, well, I don't necessarily agree with that, but it's still just such an overwhelming kind of experience that you just get caught up in it.
You know, we were up there and we were going to...
Warren Boland has a university degree. He also makes religious programs for a Sydney radio station.
Well, I don't know if it's necessary, or I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. And I can see the effects of it as well. So I started to agree with it. Certainly has an effect.
Just come in. No, come in.
I wanted to have a look at your hand.
You want to sign it?
Go and sign it.
Come and sign your hand.
Tommy Rodonicus, Tom Terrific, the team captain, also sees the effects, but in another way, from his adoring fans. This is the public approval for his football aggression, his driving self-motivation.
Okay.
You at the end of the season, huh?
No, love, no. It'll be off in 2 weeks. I'm going to chop it off.
Okay.
Okay, girl. See you later.
It's very important to for a player to be self-motivated also, because the coach can only do a certain amount. It's up then to the individual to do his own self-motivation.
There are players in the team, for example, the extremely bright ones who, or perceptive ones, who sort of say to me from time to time, Roy, I know you go on with this, but I make myself believe it. I'm starting to believe some of these things I say myself.
The approval comes in cold cash for this man, butcher John Doherty. He's the football brains of the team. But to him, a football game is something more primitive. It's law of the jungle.
So two animals that are after the one thing in life, and to live, you know, they've got to knock each other out.
Roy Masters never lets up.
Flies away
even at a backyard barbie with the wives and the girlfriends. The talk is football, but underlying it all is the self-image.
Bloke in the office where I work, he said to me, I read the paper, I'm not sure which paper, but I read the paper, and it had, I reckon, you know, a fairly good article, a fairly big article on the game, Manly and West, and I reckon there was a paragraph and a half on the football. It's all after on the Monday, and it was, I'm not sure which paper it was. And we scored two of the most spectacular tries that day. Jack, remember that day against Manly? We scored two of the best tries you've ever seen in your life.
A can't go up and just job B because B's done something to him, and it's all sorted out, over, you know, like kids in the playground. It's all over and done within a minute. But rather, I'll get my own back on him in a subtle, devious, snide way, and that's the point he's making. And it's this.
Yeah, we go out there and play man for man, and I've got to go on that bloke in the ground, and I've got to beat him. I go out there to beat the bloke I'm playing against.
It's called Search and Destroy, a motivation movie. Not with John Wayne and the Marines, but with football players. In fact, American gridiron players, with all the razzle-dazzle and the padding that our gladiators would normally laugh at, but not today.
Get the man. This is the man I want to get.
I wouldn't use hypnosis, because I find that hypnosis would probably be more successful with a team such as Cronulla or Canterbury or even Manly, because hypnosis tends to relax players and the sound of waves beating against the shore and things like that.
The blokes from western suburbs have got no money. Some of you have got money and the rest of you want it for next year.
But if hypnosis is out, music is in. Music to motivate men. And oddly enough, his pet theme is Exodus. Masters equates the Jewish struggle with western suburbs. Backs to the wall, downtrodden, victimised, and always fighting for survival.
It's just designed to get the adrenaline pumping a little bit faster, and it's also designed to help them to control themselves a little bit. They've got to be able to cop one right across the mouth and be willing to tolerate it.
Roy Masters knows that he must pitch his players into a state of controlled fury. But he also knows that outside in the arena, the controls may disappear.
I think that it's a little bit like the Roman days, but I think it's a part of people's venting their emotions by watching something that perhaps some of them may like to do themselves.
Sometimes it gets out of hand. The players have to be pulled apart. So once again, the gladiators go into battle. On Monday morning, we'll all talk about how the game is too violent. But next weekend, we'll call for blood and probably get it. At least the Romans were a bit more honest. Altogether, we spent 6 weeks with Wests, a team that had some of their top players disqualified for alleged violence. And we watched them succeed against all the predictions, winning game after game to approach the premiership against all of the odds. Last week, they lost. And this was to be our last look at the Gladiators.
Despite the petrol shortage.
My name is Mike Bailey, and I'm here, I guess, in some ways as a representative of those who've cheered from the stands for so many years. And it certainly gives me a lot of pleasure, and at the same time puts an enormous weight on my shoulders, I think, to live up to what so many of them would want to see come out of a night like this, saluting so many greats. Welcome indeed, and I'm sure you're going to have a great night, no question about that. I've already rubbed shoulders with a few people who are doing exactly that so far. We are going to be asking for your support as well, ladies and gents. Raffle tickets are on the table. We hope that you will give the raffle due support. In addition, someone is going to go away with some very special prize just as a result of being here, and that, of course, is a Victor lawnmower, proudly made possible by just what you need for the start of the summer season. I mean, with no football, you really do want to get out and push the lawnmower, don't you? Of course, it's the best in the business. It's Victor, and I think many of us have extremely happy memories of Victor's sponsorship of the mighty Magpies, especially in those Lidcombe Oval days at the end of the 1970s, with our coach of the century in charge, Roy Masters. You'll be hearing from Roy a little bit later this evening too, ladies and gents. We certainly have a lot of people with us tonight, and we would like to make them all welcome. We don't have a chance to list them all individually, but we certainly do want to say thank you to a few of them at this stage, including Robert Tasso of Victor Loin Care, who of course has made the prize possible. But unfortunately, some people invited tonight as very much a part of this very special occasion can't be with us. And on their behalf, I tender apologies from Gloria Donnelly, Dallas's mum, but she is here in a manner of speaking represented by her son-in-law, Gary Knight. We have apologies too from Jim Sharman, also from, let's have a round of applause for Jim, and for Dallas. One of the great all-time callers, if not the very best when it came to rugby league, Frank Hyde, is not with us tonight, but he has been a stalwart of the Magpies for a long time and has come to many Pratton Park Magpie functions, but not with us tonight. That means there's a vacancy for someone to sing Danny Boy, but I won't be stepping into the breach there, I can assure you. Apologies too from Matthew Muir of the Muirs Group, of course a stalwart supporter of West's over many years, and also from Billy Horder, one of our great players of the past. Sorry that they can't be with us tonight. And ladies and gents, there is one other apology, a very special apology, and we'll hand over to the video screen for that one.
Ladies and gentlemen, look, I'm just so sorry I can't be there tonight on this great occasion, because I think it's a great thing that they picked the team of the century, the great Western Suburbs team of the century, and I'm so sad I can't be there, but I'm sure that all you blokes will have a wonderful time and that you're all good mates, and like I said, I wish I was there. Yeah, when the West team of the century was first announced, people always ask you what my reaction was, and it's funny, I suppose, to be picked as a reserve, at the start, I was a little bit disappointed, but then when I sat back and I thought about it, I don't mind being beaten by a champion, and Keith Holman is a champion, and Keith, I'll play second fiddle to you any day, mate. And one thing I will say, that if I'm on the bench and I get on that paddock, well, I won't be coming home. All the best.
Will officially make you very welcome tonight, and to remind you of what the night and the century has been all about, would you please make welcome the chairman of West's Magpies, Kevin Hammond.
Thank you, Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to play a special welcome to the team of the century players, their families, their loved ones, and those that are representing the players here that couldn't be here tonight for one reason or another. Our special guests, ladies and gentlemen, the West faithful. It's with great pleasure on behalf of the board of the Western Suburbs District Rugby League Football Club that I welcome you all here tonight to this magnificent venue at West Ashfield, who I might say right from the outset, none of this, and I mean none of this, would have been possible without the full and wholehearted support of the board and management of this club. And to this day, this club survives because of the unquestioned and undying support of West Lees Club Ashfield. So we thank them from the bottom of our hearts. Things like tonight, a magnificent painting will be will be unveiled before your very eyes, which celebrates the very nature and character of Western Suburbs and portrays our magnificent team of the century and what we hope will be accepted as being true to the spirit of Western Suburbs. That too was made possible by the generous commissioning of that portrait from renowned artist Mr Dave Thomas by West Ashfield. Tonight is a very special occasion, and I'd like to formally acknowledge and welcome some of the past sponsors of our club, some of whom Mike has already referred to tonight, and that is Victor Sunbeam, who is represented by Mr Robert Tasso, Subaru Australia, who is represented by Mr Trevor Amy, who formerly was of Capital Motors, who also in years gone by was of tremendous assistance to Western Suburbs. Mr Paul Noring, who's representing IPEC Toll, who you recall in the 80s was one of our valued sponsors. And last but not least, as you would all know, this gentleman, very famous in his own right, Jim Masterton, the man of who is the builder of dreams for Masterton Homes, and Mr Robert Barnaby, who together picked West up at a time when we were in desperate need and gave unfavoured support to the Magpies. Jim and Robert, welcome to our very special function tonight. I'd also like to mention the following sponsors who are our current local sponsors, and that is Mr Frame, Bob and Judy Iverson, Mr Frame, who have done a lot of work tonight in a lot of the framed items of memorabilia that you'll see here tonight. Carney Spall Marketing, who are our gear suppliers. Prospect Credit Union, MacArthur Engineering, City Hotel Campbelltown, Wesley's Club Campbelltown, Jim and Jeanette Medway from Snap Printing, who everything you see printed here tonight is as courtesy of Snap Printing. And of course, our naming rights sponsor for this year, Coldwell Financial Services, who together with Herbal World, Walker, Tooheys, South Cork Wines and West Ashfield are the sponsors collectively of tonight's magnificent event. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very special occasion. It only comes around once in a century, and I'm certainly not going to be around to see it in the next century. But as you'd appreciate, this is a celebration of in two ways tonight. We have an opportunity to celebrate and honour our team of the century, and also, and just as importantly, it was an opportunity for us to bring back together the West faithful who, over a long period of time, have not had the opportunity to come together as one and enjoy each other's company as such as tonight at such an auspicious occasion. So together tonight, what is more important is that Western Suburbs as a club is going to honour and celebrate our team of the century. As you know, last year the West Tigers had a function at which time it announced its team of the century, and to complement that, at the suggestion of Western Suburbs, both a Balmain and a Western Suburbs team of the century was announced. Unfortunately, because it was a function which was to do with West Tigers, that we did not have the opportunity to properly celebrate and commemorate the naming of our own team of the century. Therefore, as far as the Western Suburbs Club was concerned, it was never ever going to be fulfilled until such time as we as a club could come together and celebrate and honour our own team of the century, the greatest players that have wore the black and white of Western Suburbs. If you'd have told me as a young kid at the Hill of Pratton Park or at Lidcombe Oval that one day I would stand before you as your chairman of this magnificent club, and moreover that I would stand here on such a significant occasion in the history of this club, then I would have just laughed and said that's just absolutely impossible. So I'm very humbled to be here as your chairman tonight to stand before you and address you on such a very important occasion. And of course, not too many people in life have the opportunity to experience and go through life and experience or be part of something special. To be part of this team of the century of this magnificent club is something very, very special. And when I think of that, I think of players that are in the team of the century, and I signal two out in particular, one of which is Keith Holman. Keith, although small in stature, has a heart the size of Farlap, and in his day on the field, he brought to the knees the biggest, the ugliest, the toughest players that came up against him. But when he talks of Western Suburbs and he talks of the teammates that he played alongside in this club, the man is overcome overwhelmingly with emotion and has reduced to tears. On another occasion, I look to what, and quite unashamedly I say this, my childhood hero in Noel Kelly, who was quoted arguably the toughest man to ever play rugby league, who said once, "There wasn't a West player I did not want to play with. Not one dud. I love West. It's the greatest club in the world. To put on a West jumper is equal to putting on an Australian jumper." And finally, ladies and gentlemen, in this very venue last Friday night, I was privileged to be here at a function conducted by West Cricket Club, where I had the privilege of listening to Mr. Alan Davidson, MBE, one of the greatest Australian cricketers that the country has ever produced, and a Western Suburbs cricketer. And I heard Alan talk and speak of what it meant to him to play cricket for Western Suburbs. I heard what it meant to him to be part of Western Suburbs. I heard how he felt about Western Suburbs. And when you put those three things in perspective and you put them together, you realise just how special it is to be part of Western Suburbs, whether it be a player, a supporter, a sponsor, in whatever capacity that you are a part of Western Suburbs, you know that you'll go through life and look back and say that you were part of something very, very special. Ladies and gentlemen, our team of the century is full of players and people who have fashioned the characteristics of this club over a lengthy period of time, almost from day one. They created a culture and a disposition for this club. There was a football club that would never say die. And the players that make up our team of the century are what rugby league, the best that rugby league has to offer. It's what all that is good that rugby league stands for and is important. Loyalty, mateship, a commitment fashioned out of the working class society that strove for recognition through its football heroes. That is what our team of the century represents. That is what they've created, a culture for this club that has stood the test of time over the years. And in trying to encapsulate what is relevant to both our team of the century and also this club, I found a quote that I'd like to read for you from James J. Corbett, who was a heavyweight boxer of many years ago, and he had this to say: fight one more round. When your feet are so tired that you can't shuffle back to the centre of the ring, fight one more round. When your arms are so tired that you can hardly lift your hands to come on guard, fight one more round. When your nose is bleeding and your eyes are black and you are so tired that you wish your opponent would crack you on the jaw and put you to sleep, fight one more round. Remembering that the man who fights one more round is never defeated. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what encapsulates our team of the century, and that is what epitomises the Western Suburbs Club. I thank you all for coming. I hope you have an exceptional evening in what is, as I said before, a very significant occasion in the history of this club. And just before I part, I would simply have this to say, that there is not and possibly never will be a greater club than Western Suburbs. And I invite you now to sit back and enjoy a video as we celebrate our team of the century, who are truly the boys from Western Suburbs. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Like all Foundation Rugby League clubs, both in Sydney and the north of England, Western Suburbs emerged from the local rugby union club. A move propelled by players desperate for protection of their wages while off work with football injuries. This was especially so for the cherry pickers in the wilds of Ashfield and the Western Suburbs in the first decade of the 20th century. A tough environment forged tough players, an important characteristic of the Magpies throughout the 100 years. The Western Suburbs team of the century is a showcase of players capable of physically dominating an opposition, a side laced with drive and flair and creative skills in abundance. And leadership has never been a problem at the Magpies. Along the way, the club has provided 3 Kangaroo touring captains: Frank McMillan, Cole Maxwell and Arthur Summers. Arthur was captain coach of the all-conquering 1963-64 Australian side. All in all, a galaxy of greats for selectors and supporters to ponder over. Who should be the fullback in West's team of the century? A difficult choice, with nominees including Skinny McMillan, Billy Keto, Darcy Russell, Don Parrish, John Dorahy and more, right through to current junior product, Brett Hodgson. To help assess the player for the #1 jumper, who better than one of our leading fullbacks and an icon of the club, Jimmy Sharman, a man who played from 1934 to 1939 and captained West in his final season. In fact, Jim succeeded the selector's choice, Frank McMillan.
Oh, he wasn't very robust built sort of a guy, no. He was a very unorthodox type of player. And anything he done very well as a footballer. He was on his own, no one was run second to him.
Frank McMillan did it all for West. He twice combined Kangaroo Tours and Magpie Premiership success, 1929-30 and 1933-34. Skinny captained the Australians on the second trip. The man credited with revolutionising fullback play by joining the line and attacking, went on to coach West and ultimately become club president. A sad note to temper celebration of West's record representation of 5 players in the 1933-34 Kangaroos. Popular Magpie junior winger Ray Morris was hospitalised in Malta and died of meningitis. His teammates continued on. The Magpies would have power and skill on the wings. Peter Diamond arrived as a teenager from Dapto, played 155 matches, including a club record 4 grand finals for the Magpies. He debuted at 19 years of age versus Alan Prescott's 1958 Great Britain side and played Test until 66. Here, Diamond contributes one of his 2 tries in the 1963 50-12 massacre at Swinton, as the Kangaroos claim the Ashes for the first time in 50 years on British soil. Peter was always on hand when the Pommies needed taming. On the other flank, and every bit as robust, Alan Ridley. Alan from Queanbeyan was an even bigger winger than Diamond.
Ridley? That's right.
A big winger?
Yeah, he was great. He should be in the World's team for Western Suburbs.
Yeah.
Oh, right. But he was a good bloke.
Good bloke. Good.
Oh, he was a good bloke.
A big winger, fast.
Well, he was I'd say 6'3", and he'd be 15 and a half stone. Could run like a deer.
Well, he virtually scored a try a game. I think he scored 53 tries in 60 matches for West.
I wouldn't be surprised at any record I heard that he's supposed to have broken, because he was capable of it.
Yeah.
Alan Ridley toured with the 1933-34 Kangaroos, claimed a premiership with the Magpies in 34, and scored 53 tries in his 60 games with West.
Peter Diamond. He was hard and tough and game as anything. Oh, he was a good player. Oh, he was nearly 6 feet, 14 stone. Alan Ridley was about 6'3", and nearly 16 stone. And I put him on the mark. I reckon Ridley would win any sprint race.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But it was a different era. You're only guessing. Yeah. Only guessing. But if I was to pick 2, Ridley would be in my team.
The centres are the formidable combination of Harry Wells and Cliff Pearce. Dealer Wells was an essential part of West's Millionaires rebuilding program of the 50s and played 85 games from 56 to 1961. Dealer was an international from 1952.
Gary was always at his best when Harry Wells was the inside centre. Harry Wells would take a lot of hard dumps, you know, and give him the ball, and he knew what to do with it. But they were a great combination. But he always had his best when Harry Wells was inside centre for him.
Cliff Pearce played in West's first premiership in 1930. He would have had a second blazer, but missed the 1934 season after breaking his leg as the 33-34 Kangaroo Tour wound down with a match against the rest. Pearce played 65 games for the Magpies from 1929 to 1937, consistently playing for the state and starring in 7 tests.
Now, what about Cliff Pearce?
Well, Cliff come from Tamworth. His nickname was Tammy Pearce. And as I came into the game, he was off with a broken leg. It didn't ruin his career, because after a seasonal spell, he was captain of West for 3 or 4 years, and I played with him.
Yeah.
But he was a nice bloke too.
A good captain, good leader?
Good captain, good leader, good player, and a good man. Good friend to everybody.
What sort of size? A chunky sort of
player? Oh, he was a crash and bash artist.
Was he? Yeah.
Oh, but he was good at it, mate. Oh yes, he was good.
Lee's team's in the team with Harry Wells, so similar styles?
I would say that he'd be a bit more brutal than Harry Wells.
A bit more brutal than the dealer?
A comparison in their ability as footballers, I think Cliff would get picked in front of Harry Wells. But Harry Wells, that's a hard question to answer, you know.
You have to feel sorry for Test calibre Magpie pivots such as Frank Stanmore, Darcy Henry, Arthur Summons and others, as Vic Hay was destined to claim the 5'8" spot.
What about Vic Hay?
He's the greatest footballer ever lived. Vic Hay was on his bloody own, mate. No one will ever. I played with him in New Zealand. I played with him in Sydney. and it broke my heart when he had to go up to Wimbledon and he went to England. Australians never ever saw the greatness of him, but oh boy. Hey, look, even if he wasn't picked for attack, he should have been picked for defence because I can't speak highly enough of him. My first go in first grade, at the sports ground, we played St George, and I think Robinson was the fullback for St George, I'm not sure, but it don't matter. He kicked up a very high punt and hit Charlie Cornwell on the hand. Put them all on side, and boy, oh boy, did they have a tough pack of forwards. Here's me. Wait for the ball. I never Jim though. And the hand come past my chest. He says, "It's mine, Jim. Move over." He just moved away. He just had time to catch the ball, set himself, split second timing, and he was, man, it was three St George tough forward, and they're on the ground. He went bing, 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 but 4 or 5 side steps and put it under the paper. I'll never forget. I can remember as if it happened yesterday. Only Vic Hay could do that.
Vic only had 3 years in Western Suburbs, establishing his greatness with a premiership and kangaroo selection in 1933-34.
Vic, you could tell them about the time you chased that little Tommy Black and when he jumped in England and you jumped the fence to catch him.
And as I passed the ball, this way out, this to me, and when I went to back up, or just before I backed up, he sunk me on the chin, see? So I'm after him up the field, see? Up we go up the bloody field. I wouldn't have caught him if I had a motorbike. He jumped into the crowd at the end and the referee come back and he said, off, off. I said, I didn't catch him. He said, off, off. I said, off my life.
Another veteran Magpie stalwart and a keen judge of a footballer was Ray Gillum. After pioneering South Coast football, Ray journeyed through Glebe, East and Norths before finding a home among the Magpies in 1936. He played, coached and was a long-term administrator with Wests, and Don Bradman's brother-in-law always had a story to tell.
I'll tell you my opinion of Keith, and he used to get me to watch him and give him my opinion, like he did with others too, about his game. But I reckon Keith was a great footballer, but he depended a lot on his own physical fitness. He was that sort of a player.
Yeah. The Magpies have always been blessed with outstanding test-calibre halves. But even with Les Mousy Mead and Tom Radonicus to choose from, how could the selectors go past Keith Holman? Only 2 other players have played more tests than Yappy, whose dedication to West through 202 matches from 1948 to 61 was exemplary. In a rare tribute, the league itself honoured Holman with a testimonial in 1961.
What about Keith Holman? How do you rate him as your all-time half?
He's good. Similar to Mousy Mead. Mousy Mead was a scrum half in my years. Similar type of player. On a wet day, it was always at their best. No one ever outplayed Mousy Mead on a wet day. And Holman was very similar, but he was a bit more brilliant.
I enjoyed playing against Holman. He was really one of the top great half-backs, and tough as he was, he would never say die, that man.
At lock forward, a graduate of Roy Masters' all-conquering 1973 Australian schoolboys team, Les Boyd, nicknamed the baby-faced assassin, debuted for West at age 17 in 1976 and played 67 generally drama-charged matches before being poached by the Silvertails. Boyd was an extremely skillful player in attack and a punishing defender, representing the Magpies on the 78 Kangaroo Tour.
West, big moment now. They've got to score to get back into this game. Boyd, he's there! What did he have? And that's a good try, just the right side. Out it comes to Foster. They've got a man over if they can use it. There's Boyd. Boyd striding up well. He's showing a lot of pace too. He's busted one tackle, got it back into Mosley. Mosley's through! And he'll go round.
In the second row, another recruit in the Millionaires campaign, Queenslander Kel O'Shea. O'Shea was a champion back rower who played 110 matches in the black and white from 1956 to 63, many times as captain. Kell played 15 tests, quite often in a second row partnership with Norm Provan. The giant forward played in 2 grand finals for West, 61 and 63. In Kell O'Shea's era, Western Suburbs were renowned for their grandstand finishes, as they regularly appeared in the match of the day at the SCG.
The one thing I've got to tell you about is Ned Kelly's always been boasting about one day when Neville Charlton left West and went to play with East, and a game on the sports ground, Neville lost his teeth. Someone has biffed Neville in the kisser. All I've got to say, it was me. And Buffett Ned Kelly's been claiming that ever since.
Kell's second row partner, a local from Parramatta Rugby Union, Arthur Clues. Like Vic Hay, Arthur Clues was another talented young magpie to be snaffled up by English club Leeds.
I've watched every team since 1948, when I played for Leeds in 47. I've seen every Australian team since 1948 tour this country. I've done a lot of work for the Australians as liaison officer, this, that and the other. But they were tremendous this side, and I don't think I've seen a finer side in my life.
To the front row. He was described in Gary Lester's excellent book on the history of Western Suburbs, Clouds of Dust, Buckets of Blood, as a larger-than-life character who was fundamental to the spirit of Western Suburbs. John Donnelly was recruited from Gunnedah in 1975. Nicknamed Dallas, simply because he was bigger than Texas, Donnelly was a lovable rogue who contributed as much to West off the field as he did during his 147 matches for the Magpies. A crowd favourite, Dallas was a mainstay of the club during the turbulent 80s as West fought the league for survival. Donnelly was underutilised at rep level, only playing for Australia in 75 and 77. While he made opposing teams feel nervous, he obviously did the same to representative selectors and administrators. Dal had a special sense of humour and kicked this field goal against Parramatta at Lidcombe so his mum at home in Gunnedah could see him on television. Ashfield Auditorium was packed to witness former President Bill Carson presenting life membership to a favourite son.
And I'd just like to congratulate Jim Camerons on getting his wish. Dallas gets life. He tried that about 6 years ago. Thanks very much. I've been to Phillip Street a few times and things like that, and people have published things and blokes have got away with different things. But I don't know, there was a paper that published something one time, and a certain bloke took him on defamation of character. But I don't know who painted this or made it up, but there's a big chance of me taking him on defamation of looks. I don't think I'm that man.
Dallas's partner at prop is Ed Tedder Courtney, equally at home with the tag, a legend of the Western Suburbs club, playing a remarkable 157 games in a competition composed of only 8 teams from 1911 to 1924.
Tedder Courtney.
No, I didn't know.
So by way of reputation and the background to the club and his influence over such a long career.
He was thought a lot of by the club as a man and as a footballer. You'd have to get someone older than me to get information to know.
It was a phenomenal career.
Yeah.
1911 to 1924 he played with West, 304
That's right,
games.
yeah. Cast on.
Equally effective at hooker or prop in both club and representative matches, Noel Kelly contributed one of the fastest things in football, Ned's left arm.
A fuming Noel Kelly lands a perfect left hook on Orchard's jaw in retaliation. An all-in brawl erupts and referee Pearce sends off Kelly and Orchard. A brawl breaks out. In the middle of it is Billy Smith, mixing it with the heavyweights. Watch here as Ned Kelly flattens Dave Robinson, who is laid out cold. Referee Pearce takes no action as the bell sounds.
Ned joined the Magpies in 1961, playing 115 games through to 1969 when he retired as captain coach. An effective hooker in an era when scrummaging was an art form and possession was everything. Kelly was also a damaging open forward in both defence and attack. A lovable rogue who fitted right in at the Magpies.
What about Noel Kelly, Ned Kelly?
Well, hey, I got no Kelly for West at the Malpass Hotel at Home Hill in Queensland. He was coaching Bert the Birding, and that's there. I'm doing the show there, you see. I signed him up on a coaster. In the pub, we both had a few beers.
A lot of Magpie supporters glad you did.
Oh, he knows it too. Yeah.
Noel Kelly first made a name for himself in 1959 as Queensland upset New South Wales. He was the first forward to make 3 Kangaroo tours. He and Ned Powers over the line during the 50-12 Swinton Massacre in 1963. In the current rugby league era, the bench players are fundamental to a team's success. And how about these for impact players? Tommy Raudonikis, Neville Charlton, John Dorahy, and Bill Carson. Bill Carson was a prop or second row who played 125 matches for the Magpies between 1954 and 64, including the 58 and 1961 grand finals. He also achieved excellence as an administrator, leading West into a purple patch through the late 70s and early 80s. Carson played 2 tests against Britain in 1962, and Bill has a place in rugby league folklore for throwing the allegedly forward pass to Ken Irvine to help secure victory in the 3rd test in Sydney. Fiery prop Neville Charlton was affectionately known as Boxhead by supporters, but opposing teams didn't share any affection.
Down they scrum once again with Darcy Lawler going around having a look at Bath on the blind side of the scrum. Hello, there's one of the boys, Charlton, rubbing his eye. And watch this one. Oh, cop that young Harry. As Harry Bath flies out of the pack, and the referee apparently didn't see that one coming through there. Anyhow, Holman works the pack.
Neville appeared in the 58 grand final and captained West in the 1961 clash, again with St George. Considered by many judges to be one of league's finest players never to play for Australia, Neville Charlton played for New South Wales in 1959 and 1961 during his 228 games in first grade, 143 of those for the Magpies. Always composed, John Dorahy played fullback and centre for the Magpies in 99 games from 1974 to 79, earning the nickname Joe Cool. A brilliant attacking player, a strong defender and a prolific goal kicker, Dorahy proved his durability in a career that stretched over nearly 300 matches in Australia and England before he retired in 1989, the incumbent country origin fullback. Joe Cool represented Australia from West in 1978 in tests against New Zealand and would have toured with the Kangaroos except for injury. Tom Terrific, Tom Raudonikis. His stats closely resemble those of the team of the century's halfback Keith Holman. What an embarrassment of riches for West to have. Tommy played 201 games for the Magpies from 1969 to 1979 and was an Australian Test stalwart from 72 to 1980 in 20 appearances. Raudonikis had the honour of captaining Australia in the deciding 3rd Test of the 1973 Kangaroo Tour. He conclusively proved what impact he could have as a bench player in an interstate match at Lang Park, replacing Steve Mortimer in the last 15 minutes, with Queensland leading 13-3. Tommy started an all-in brawl, set up a try and scored another to relentlessly drive the Blues to victory 14-13. Tommy's never-say-die value to Western Suburbs, or any team, could never be overstated. Quite a team of 17, the Western Suburbs team of the century, with many Magpie stars unlucky to miss out. With a who's who of Australian Rugby League to choose from, Noel Kelly was appointed to captain the Magpies team of the century. Now, who would want to argue with that? After all, we wouldn't want Kelly to lower the boom.
If ever they got this Irish up, Kelly lower the boom, 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 boom.
Ah, it was a sight to behold when Kelly lowered the boom.
Who to select as coach of this talented squad? The contenders include the immortal Jimmy Craig, who made the West Tigers Team of the Century. Other coaching nominees: Vic Hay, coach of Australia's history-making Ashes teams of 1950 and 54, coached the Magpies in 58 and 59, just after Duck Walsh. Noel Kelly is captain coach Western Suburbs. Names such as Ken Carney, Warren Ryan, Laurie Fryer, and our own testmen Don Parrish, Keith Holman and Tommy Radonicus were among the nominees, as were 1948 and 52 premiership coaches Jeff Smith and Tom McMahon. Jack Fitzgerald, a 1952 premiership winger who coached the club to 3 successive grand finals in the early 60s, and in many minds won the 1963 epic against St George, surrounded by controversy involving referee Darcy Lawler and an alleged wager at City Tats. The nod went to Roy Masters, who successfully guided the Magpies out of McDonald's, winning the 1977 under-23s and the first grade minor premiership in 1978. Under Roy, West were a serious premiership threat from 1978 to 1981 inclusive.
It's a miracle you got to the final with a team of very limited ability.
Well, it wasn't so much my magic. I'm not. I must say that it was largely the cooperation of the players that got us there, but it was a year in which very many people didn't expect us to do so well. I think we capitalised on that for quite some time.
Manly this afternoon down at Brookvale. Is that going to be a continuation of the feud that's been going on since that out in Melbourne?
No, World War III won't take place at Brookvale today. It's experimental game from both camps, and I think that you'll find quite a happy, fast-flowing game of football.
Roy Masters, an innovator, a tactician and a powerful motivator, had West playing a physical brand of football to packed houses at Lidcombe Oval. The Western Suburbs Team of the Century would have no difficulty coping with opposition from any era, with its personnel adjusting to the challenges presented in any period of the game, from the unlimited tackle days to the 10-metre rule. Similarly, the Magpie Club has been resilient through all the eras, negotiating the horse and sulky days and the tyranny of distance when players were assembled from the Blue Mountains to Ashfield, giving birth to 2 new clubs, Canterbury in 1935. Canterbury, with the aid of the residential rule, inherited the nucleus of our 1930 and 34 premiership teams, along with the legendary coach Jimmy Craig. Western Suburbs, a team and a club who have no problem with the hard yards. As the Magpie Club song says, come along and give a cheer for the greatest football players, the Western Suburbs Rugby League Team of the Century.
Those players who graced the black and white jumper of Western Suburbs should forever be proud.
Days
of the days, weren't they? Number 7, Old Cratton Park. one thing that stuck with me was that I was a Maggie for the full thing. I never went to another club after I went there.
Next couple of days, I was from nowhere and I could play with whoever I liked. So that gave me the chance to play for Western Suburbs. And I never regretted it either. But I had a wonderful period of time at Western Suburbs. And even when I was in the show business, travelling all through Queensland in the winter time, so the first results I ever wanted on a Saturday night was out at St Joseph's College West in the GBS comp and how West went in the rugby league.
So I can't thank Western Suburbs enough for giving me that opportunity when I was a young lad, and I'll always be a Magpie.
Magpies, you're fantastic.
I never played with a dud player at West. I reckon they're the best bunch of blokes I ever met. And the day they booted West out, I think they did the same for me. I'm a Magpie was at the start, and I reckon my family and I are Magpies to the finish.